everyone, and welcome to the Inner Shift podcast. I'm Amy Friesen. I'm here with my counterpart, Kimothy. How are you, Kimothy?
Well, you and I are both suffering a little bit of spring flu-like symptoms, so we're gonna stick with this because the woman that we're about to talk to would never let me slack off.
We're gonna muscle through
We're
this.
muscling through. Yeah, we are.
And we want to remind everyone, if you like what we're doing here on the Inner Shift, please subscribe. It helps us do lots of different things, but it helps us also get in front of a lot of people. And it also hit the notified button. Timothy, maybe you could introduce this lovely lady in front of us.
Sure. Gosh, I don't even know how long ago it was, but Andrea Schwartz Smith, Olympian, became my swimming coach when I got really interested in, because who doesn't start triathlon in their 40s? And an amazing, amazing coach. And I have to say, I did try to go back after the car accident, but shoulders and seatbelts don't work really well. Has raised so much money for, we're going to talk about this, for cancer research. Um, another friend of hers that we're going to have on the show next week about when you get the diagnosis. But also one that I participated in, which was for the earthquake after Haiti. And I just wanted to do this because I missed you, Andrea.
Oh, I missed you. It's nice to
Yeah,
see your face. Nobody
it's
else can see our faces, but that's okay.
but yeah, well, actually they will. But one of the things that I said to Amy that I wanted to talk to you about because it's a fascination for me is the mental health, because this is a show about women and mental health, is the mental health that is required to be an Olympian, to not only get there, but to also endure the amazing stress of that moment. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that was like to go to the Olympics? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a big thing.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I mean that's almost 30 years ago now. I
Yeah.
was 19, I'm 47. Um I can tell you that it's a long journey and it's not a single there's no one single event along the way other than Olympic trials that really clenches that Olympic berth for you, certainly not in swimming. So, it was a multitude of competitions and a real growth process through the sport before I was ready to compete at a national level. And then it took a long time to learn how to race at a national level because it's a bit scary. Um, and then you head to Olympic trials, and then the pressure is on. I would say Olympic trials was far, far worse than the Olympics in terms of pressure and in terms
Wow.
of that's your make or break it moment, right? And it was in March of 1996. So not only are you trying to make sure you're healthy through then, but you had to make a certain time standard and be top two in the country to get a trip to the Olympic Games. And um, the first night of competition, I was sixth in the 200 freestyle and won a spot on the relay, the 4x200 freestyle relay. And that was going to be the first year that they held that relay for women, maybe for men too, at the Olympic Games. So that was really cool, but still not guaranteed an individual swim. 2 days or 3 days later, I won the 400 free, but only made the FINA B standard, which meant that the country wasn't guaranteed to send me for that event, even though I'd won. And then 2 days later, on the last night of the Olympic trials, I was second in the Turner fly and made the FINA A standard. So that meant we were going, both Jessica DeGlau and myself. We were 3/100ths apart, so it was a very tight finish. And then it was a flurry of activity. It was an incredible amount of training that went in between March and July when the games were. We got together as a national team multiple times at staging camps and training camps and like as measurement points. Um, then we traveled to Gainesville, Florida to stage for the Olympic Games in a training camp there, just to get used to the really hot, really humid conditions we were going to have in Atlanta. Um, and then we moved on to Atlanta to the Olympic Games, and it was the Centennial Games, so it was that was pretty cool. And it was unlike any experience I can relate it to. I mean, I swam at World Championships, I swam at Pan Pacific Championships, and Commonwealth Games, and all of these are nothing like the Olympic Games, which are just this huge celebration of athletes from all over the world. And opening ceremonies was just unbelievable. And if you didn't race the first 3 days of the Olympics, you were allowed to go to opening ceremonies because it was like 12 hours of standing. Um, and marching with the Canadian flag into the arena, like that was uh, there's no words. Racing at the games, there's 10,000 people. It's really, really loud. And you're trying to do everything you can to stay in your little competition bubble, your little mindset bubble, and not get sucked in to what's going on. We have a lot of practice racing with that kind of environment, so it wasn't the first time we've raced in front of a crowd or anything like that, but definitely, definitely brand new in terms of the intensity of the noise.
How do you feel about those memories? That's a lot of pressure for a 19-year-old.
Yeah, I'm getting a little shaky just even like talking about it.
Yeah.
Um, you know what? The Olympics was awesome and the Olympics was hard. And I don't think you're ever going to find an athlete that is going to tell you that the Olympics went absolutely perfectly their way. Um, and you're usually in a bit of an adverse situation. And that's, I think what people don't see all the time is that we're not in five-star accommodations. We're not in the best situation travel-wise. Um, it's really quite unique, and athletes from every games will tell you this. So I know Paris had issues as well with like hour-long buses and buses breaking down and buses without air conditioning. Same thing in Atlanta. Long travel times, a lot of time on your feet, a lot of time walking, and we don't, it's not necessarily how we're pretty protective athletes of our pre-performance. So
Mhm.
that's not something we normally are used to. Um, it was It was a wild ride. Let's go with that. It was a wild ride. It was so fun to be part of. Um, and then there's the other side of it. There's, reaching your lifelong dreams at 19 and having a life ahead of you to go. So,
One of the thank you for sharing, and all of it's interesting. And one of the things that I picked into that was when you specifically said how you really had to get into, train yourself into, and kind of stay in the mindset so that you didn't get distracted and you could stay focused. And I'm curious if you remember or if you have tips of how, like, what kind of strategies would you use for that? Because there's, women all over the place, what men and women that, we all try to do that. And we're, even in our older years at like 40s, 50s, 60s, like not a lot of people have mastered being able to have that type of intense focus in a very intense situation, let alone just everyday life. And so that was really, that stood out to me. And so do you remember what that felt
mm.
like?
Oh yeah. We call it autopilot, or I call it autopilot. I know we've got a lot of athletes that call it the same because it's a mode that we practice all the time. So every single race, we practice it in practice, we practice it in race, and swimmers race a lot. The number of times we'd get on the blocks every year, probably at least 100. It's not a small thing. So we get a lot of chances to get it wrong, and we get a lot of chances to try something new, um, and to make these mistakes because you have to execute extreme tactical skills under extreme pressure with a variance of what your competition is doing. You have to react to that as well and know what to do. So we have a ton of breathing exercises. That's number one. Anything that can keep your breathing under control and your heart rate stabilized. And at the same time, you have to get a little bit nervous to swim fast. You can't swim fast if you're just, meh, no big deal. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have the correct balance of adrenaline and calm, and every single athlete will handle that differently. And you'll watch it. You'll see the athletes that are bouncing around with music on and have to dance before a race. You'll see the athletes that have music on and are sitting down in a chair with a towel over their head and you don't talk to them. Um, everyone's got their own little game plan, but it is a practiced and rehearsed situation, and we had to learn ourselves mentally. We spent a lot of time on mental skills. We spent a lot of time learning like what worked for us, what, reflecting on a great performance. Okay, what was I doing? Now let's take these and try to apply them. Even if it doesn't come up naturally, can I manipulate that scenario for myself again? Um, and same with it, if it didn't work, okay, why? So it's never just, oh, the race is over, let's move on. No, there's a lot of evaluation and a lot of self tracking. Like we do a ton of visualization as well, where you'd lay down and you'd visualize the race going the way you wanted it to go, and even with a stopwatch, to take your splits as you went through. Just it's a huge mental aspect. And then they say that competition is 80% mental, 20% physical, but training's the opposite. It's 20% mental, 80% physical. So you've got athletes that are better in one arena or the other that all need to stand up and learn how to race on that stage.
Is that something that you've been able to take with you through your life? And like, have you, because it seems like, we're all trying, I feel like a lot of us are trying to strive into those areas, right? Visualization, self-evaluation, breathing, all of
Yeah.
that stuff. And it seems as though, from what you're saying, is like you had it so intensely for a while and very young, right? Like you wouldn't have a life skill of it. It was intensely learned. Did you continue that type um of evaluation and stuff throughout your life, or did you burn out and be like, I can't do that anymore, or somewhere in between?
I don't know that I used it right away after retiring. I retired when I was 23. Um, but certainly as I had children, um, certainly as I coach now, these are skills that I use all the time and that I teach. Um, and I think self-assessment's probably the biggest one. I don't use visualization myself, very often, every once in a while, but it's not something I need in my day-to-day. Breathing and keeping myself under control, yeah, I use that a lot. Again, we'll just reference the three teenagers that live in my house. Um, and the fact that I work with teenagers all day. So there's that. Um, and I do it, like I said, a ton of self-assessment to see why I'm upset. Why am I upset? Let's walk this through so that I can get an answer. Like what worked, what didn't, why am I where I am, and how do I just go through a little, I did it the other day while I was in the shower. I'm like, what is my issue? Why am I the way I am today? So,
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that. It's a little out of order in terms of the questions that I thought I was going to ask, but you brought it up. Um, the friend of yours, the colleague, the swimmer that we're going to have on next week, who's going to talk about when you get the diagnosis. And you have been a fundraiser, and again, I did go to Olympic, pink as in cancer, Olympic, and I also participated and swam in the one for Haiti because you lost a swimmer in Haiti. Um, she was in the hotel, and like we swam for her. And I have to tell you, that is the longest I have ever been able to swim because I was so motivated by the emotional
yeah.
impact of the fact that our club lost a swimmer. And um, so you have not only turned your Olympic dream into something else for the community, but that can be exhausting too, to bear that responsibility of participating in major events. Brewer is the pool that I knew very well in downtown Ottawa. This is seen by people who are outside of Canada's capital. And is that part of the Olympic dream, is that you felt a responsibility to your country?
I think that the way I look at it is that I am so fortunate to have had the experience that I've had, but also to do something that I love for as long as I have. So I started swimming when I was 11. Um,
Late bloomer.
yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, I could swim before then, but I mean, competitive swimming at 11 is
Yeah.
pretty average. But I I've been involved with every aspect of the sport since, right? I've done it myself. I've parented children that were participating in it. I've coached it. I've even officiated it at a couple swim meets. Like it's very different. And I think because of that and because of everything that I got through the sport, I'm so compelled to give back to something that gave me so much and something that I love so much. Um, and giving back has happened in a lot of different ways. Olympink is one, and one that I'm so incredibly proud of. And I know you guys will talk about that more next week, but that has been just a labor of love for us. I mean, I lost my mother-in-law to breast cancer, so it's personal to us because I've watched my husband lose his mother. Um, I've watched my three kids grow up without their nanny. And it's got a huge impact on families. I've watched what it's done to my husband's family to lose the matriarch. Like it's massive and long reaching. So we've done Olympink. We've done that to honor all of the women that are going to go through a breast cancer diagnosis. And as you know, we've outfitted a treatment room at the Ottawa Rose Ages Breast Health Center at the Ottawa Hospital.
Mhm.
It's named Olympink. We've bought the specialty ultrasound machine that belongs in that room. And then we moved our funding to the Ottawa Cancer Foundation, which provides programming for people that don't necessarily have the resources around them to, some people have a community and some people don't, and they go through cancer alone. And the Ottawa Cancer Foundation provides access to all these different programs that people need as they struggle with a cancer diagnosis. And it didn't end at breast cancer, which I really liked because we lose people from cancer, not just breast cancer. So, we've raised over $420,000, and we're really, really proud of that. And now I think it's time for Olympink to rest and for us to see what's next. And I never, ever put a limit on what's next. So we just need to rest, though. We're pretty tired.
I can imagine so. I mean, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Um,
You'll go into more details next week, and so we don't
Yeah.
leave it.
Well, as we call her, other Andrea, right?
Yeah,
So other
the other Andrea.
Andreas,
She'll have lots to say.
other Andrea was the one who was diagnosed, and we're going to have that conversation. But when Amy and I were talking this morning, um, I've been so inspired. I know she has questions for you, but I've been so inspired by the fact that you turned a business, because you run. I mean, there's, I don't know how many, but like hundreds of swimmers who have become more physically fit because of you, and you're an inspiration. You've raised this money. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I'm really proud of Be Train Swimming.
Mhm.
We're in our 21st year,
Yeah.
and I didn't set out to become a businesswoman. Like that was never the goal. We moved to Ottawa in 2003, and I wanted to stay home with my kids. When I had my firstborn, my darling Kennedy, who is 19 turning 20 this year, I did not want anyone else to raise her. I wanted to have every single minute with her. And every woman gets to make their own choice on that. I have a lot of friends that are like, I could never have stayed home, and I'm like, I could never have gone back to work. It's all good. We do what we do. Um, and so B Train was born out of a desire to be home with my babies and to also replace the income that was not coming home anymore from my hotel sales job that I was working. So I didn't set out to do this. That was not the goal. It's really really neat the way it's gone. We had our 20th anniversary party in September, so that was super cool. And onwards we go. It's been really unique working in Ottawa because it's like a little big town and everybody knows everybody. And I don't, I get a new swimmer and I feel like I need to introduce them to people and they're like, no, no, I know so and so and so and so and so. I'm like, okay, you're fine. So it's been really fun.
And actually, Amy, I'll tell you before I know you've got a question, is that, you know, those little baby buckets that we all had? There would sometimes we would be swimming, and I love the one at Riverside, the outdoor swim,
Oh, at the
and
RA, yeah.
and there'd be like babies in buckets.
Yeah, bee trained babies. We have them all the
Be
time.
trained babies, and then the moms would swim, and you know,
I get the babies.
yeah. Well, in
It's
my
perfect.
case, my daughter at one point was watching your little baby at the
Right.
side because I had to bring my daughter because I was a single mom, and so we put her to work being the babysitter.
Absolutely.
It
And
takes,
now my own kids come on deck and
yeah,
babysit babies if they're around, and otherwise it gets to be my job.
yeah,
It's like therapy for me. I
takes a
get to hold a
village.
really cute baby and I get to hand them back. It's good.
Oh man. So, I mean, that's so much stuff. That's like you're doing so much stuff. So my question is, and Kimothy can see it in my eyes because I'm just like, let me at her. My question is what does Andrea look like when you strip away all of this stuff? When you strip away the pressures and different things that come from the Olympics, and that was a formed identity at that point. And then you move into motherhood, and then you're also moving into business ownership and fundraising, which I have tried my hand at, and I am not good at it. It's not that I don't care, it's just that I'm terrible at it. And so I know that like like I run a business. I know all of those things have pressures and are difficult. Motherhood, let alone three. I have one, and I'm, some days feel like I'm drowning. So my question is like, what does your identity look like if you were to strip that away? What do you do to fuel your cup? What do you do in your spare time? Very curious.
Well, I would say number one, there's not a tremendous amount of spare time. My husband will say that's my biggest flaw is that I don't ever stop taking on work. Like I have 10 minutes and I fill it with 20 hours. Um, he's not wrong. A high performance athlete doesn't become a regular human being, unfortunately. I think they are always a high performance person.
Wow,
So,
that's really profound.
well, it's unfortunate, I think, because
Yeah.
we don't always marry high performance people and we tend to hold them to our standards. My poor husband. Um, so I think that that's part of it is that I'm always used to working at that level. I'm used to a really heavy load and I'm used to balancing it. Now, I don't do it perfectly. For for me, I love to swim, so I still need to get in the water. My family knows if I haven't been swimming because I'm mean. So it's usually like, please go swimming, mom. Mom, I don't, have you gone swimming this week? So I need exercise. I need a tremendous amount of it to make myself nice. I love to bike. I picked that up during the pandemic. So actually, I got my new bike. Her name is Dorothea Marion, and she's very pretty. I pinked her all out. And so I love to get out
Nice.
and ride Dot for short, um, as often as possible. And I read. I read voraciously. I read.
Hmm. I'm coming out to your neighborhood fairly soon, and on the back of my vehicle is my brand new Damani. So
There you go.
I would
We the
love to.
Shallow Bike Gang.
I
So
would love,
maybe
yeah.
join us.
We're gonna be biker chicks together. That'll be awesome.
I
But
love
I
it.
am curious about that like high performance thing because as a high performance journalist, once upon a time, I kind of wondered, like, is it that you get kind of hooked on the adrenaline of a really intense existence? And because
Mhm.
I only know for me, it was very difficult for me to relax and just chill the F out.
I find that in business ownership too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think there's a lot
Um,
of women out there specifically that are super high performers in whatever they're doing. And I find that in my world with business too. And it's like hard. It's hard to stop. It's hard to chill out, to your point.
It's hard to stop working. I work all the time, and I almost to the point where if I'm not working, I feel like I should be working. So the nice part about owning my own business is that most of my work can be done on my hours, so my schedule is a teeny bit more flexible. So if it is a gorgeous day and I want to go ride, there's no reason I can't, as long as I get the work done later. It sometimes just means I'm working at different hours than everybody else. Obviously, my pool hours are finite and set, and those are non-negotiable, but as a coach, those are the fun hours and the easy hours. Um, I think for every hour I'm on deck, there's 2.5 to 3 hours off deck that I'm spending learning, building, thinking, growing, etc. So it does get a little bit busy that way. And then, of course, I'm also coaching. I'm the assistant head coach with Swim Ottawa, which is a local age group program that all three of my kids have gone through. So, like I said, I'm a I'm a sucker for punishment. Like I bring on the work, I suppose.
How do you learn to be a coach from an athlete? Like, I'm sure there isn't like when they're trying to move you through a system where they want you to win medals, it's not like they're stopping and saying, hey, we're going to give you coaching lessons for some time down the road. What was that transition like from being an athlete to being a coach of athletes?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I retired from swimming and immediately started coaching with the University of Calgary Swim Club, and that's where I was at the time. And like running one of their developmental programs, which was really difficult because you're right, being an athlete doesn't mean you'll be a good coach.
Yeah.
There's a huge learning curve there. I would say too that every year I coach, I learn more, I get better.
Mm.
And part of the reason that I think that I am the coach I am today is actually because I worked with adults first. Like B Train Swimming is a master's program. Master's doesn't mean the same thing it does in golf. Master's just means they're over the age of 18. And so I get adults coming to me that want to learn a new skill, want to try a triathlon, want to be more fit, used to swim as age groupers, now want to get back to it. I've got all these ages and abilities in my pool. And one of the biggest differences between coaching kids and coaching adults is that adults expect to get it right the first time. And they're really mad when they don't. And they're really hard on themselves. I explain this over and over and over again when I'm teaching a new skill to my adults. The kids, are so much easier on themselves. When they don't learn it and get it the first time, they laugh it off and they try again. And it makes the learning process so much easier for them. So we always have that discussion of, like embrace your 10-year-old self, like laugh it off, take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And let's just learn the skill. And if it's something difficult like flip turns, is that one we struggle with? I do remind people that I've done over 13 million flip turns in my lifetime.
What?
Yeah, I know. I calculated. I did the math. And so
Crazy.
those first
Wow.
100,000 were pretty crappy. So, like it takes a long time to get to 100,000 flip turns if you're only swimming an hour a week, right? So I swam a lot more than
Yeah.
that, but I mean, from my adults. So we kind of go through that I'm like, listen, and I still mess up every once in a while, and I have a bad turn and I get water up my nose. It happens. Like it just
Oh, and Amy, if you've not done a flip turn,
I've
and
not done a
I
flip
did
turn.
my very first ones with Andrea, and it is a horrible feeling when you get it wrong. Like,
I need someone to tell me what this is. Is it when you go under and go back,
yeah,
or
and when
you
and
do a
you
circle at the wall, like you put your
yeah,
head down,
kick
you do
off the
console
wall.
and kick off. Yeah.
nailed it? Okay. Well,
So
no,
if
I've
you
never done
don't blow out at the right time, that water goes into your nasal cavity and it is most unpleasant.
it. You're
You get
talking
a
to
nasal
someone that doesn't.
lavage.
You're talking to someone that doesn't really enjoy swimming myself as much, let alone putting my head under the water. It doesn't run in my family. Like it's a family joke at this point because we're
Um,
all really bad.
you live on water. This is your backyard.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm not one to be there, right? My husband
Mhm.
was a swimmer and Eva likes to swim, but I'm just not that. So like anything with that it freaks me out. I think maybe it's a little bit because I'm claustrophobic as well. And so just like going under the water freaks me out.
I
I
just
get
had no
that.
idea, Andrea, that you did that many,
Oh,
because
so many.
you know what they say about the learning curve, right? Is that you have to do something X number of times in order for it to become a habit or habitual. And a flip turn, I get that, but I like you just brought me back to that place of getting my nasal cavity filled with chlorinated water
The
at Brewers.
worst.
And
Listen, if
so
you were both swimming right now, you wouldn't have a cold.
yeah, true.
Just gonna put
True.
that out there. We never got
It would
colds.
be burned out of
So,
there. But that
yeah.
must have taught you something really important about perseverance.
Oh, well, I don't think any athlete gets anywhere without being resilient and
Yeah.
persevering. I mean, one of the main reasons that I put my three kids in sport was actually to teach them to grind, to
Mm,
teach them to be resilient, to teach them to be adaptable, because I'm sorry, but the school system's not doing that. And where else are they learning it?
Yeah,
Um, kids
yeah.
need to learn how to fail. They need to learn that failure is another opportunity to try something again, and it needs to be in a safe environment. And I discuss that so often with my athletes, especially because I will sometimes design a set so that they purposely fail, so that we can have that experience and then talk about it after.
I love
My
that.
teenagers, right? So not my adults. I try not to make my adults fail too often.
Oh
Well,
no, I failed. I failed every time I went. So it was great. It was
Well, I
perfect.
think we were talking about it on another podcast, but like a lot of us, you mentioned how we're really hard on ourselves. I think of a lot of us are perfectionists and have been doing things professionally, regardless if they have nothing to do with swimming professionally, that we feel like we should be up a level than we are. When I was saying about yoga, when I took on yoga, it's like I was terrible at it and I hurt myself thinking that I wasn't a beginner. And it's like it makes you realize that you really have never done this before. And the failure part, I'm noticing on Eva, that she's having trouble with that, right? So she doesn't get something the first time. She's really hard on herself. She's 7. And to your point, like I am constantly telling her, we're not perfect. Like you have not done this more than twice or whatnot. And actively having conversations in our house about it because I feel like that's not something that happened when I was younger. And I think that it set me up not for failure, but it set me up for perfectionism in a bad way because you're always trying to do it right and there's not a soft spot, some of us, so like especially from past generations, right? So that's what I've been working on with Eva. So I love that you set up purposely for things to fail so people can learn that because you're right, it's not really it's different in the school system. I agree with you. But I also, it's different where if they fail a test or whatnot, there's no talk around it almost. There's nothing like, it's just like you didn't pass. And then it's like this, it's a different type of failure as it is at home when I'm like, okay, well, how much have you practiced this? Have you ever done this before? She was trying to skip the other day and she was just wasn't doing it. And then all of a sudden, she was skipping. And I said, this is because you practice. Oh, I didn't practice. And then I realized, rightly or wrongly, that she didn't actually know what the word practice meant. And I didn't clue in. And I said, oh, so practice means that you've done this multiple times. And look, you can make it to 11 skips in a row now. And I think that that helped a little bit. Some of it's in the conversation that we're having.
Yep, it is.
Repetition.
Hmm.
And it's in the way we talk to our kids. There's oh, we could go on for hours here about how we parent and how we talk to our kids and how we instill these values. It's just become something that I felt was really necessary for them all to learn, and how to get back up when they failed, and how to work at something. Sport, I think, is the best teacher of that because it doesn't come easily to most. And you have to work at it and you have to try again. And even if you're very gifted at what you do, you're not always successful. And I think that that's such an equalizer and such an important message for kids to learn.
One of the things that I learned from you that I will share with you is when I came back, as you know, my shoulder was blown out a little bit. And what a lesson in freaking humility that was,
Mm.
is that I thought, okay, you know, when they say to people, well, if you can't run anymore, and I can now bike, but if you can't run anymore and you can't do these other things, go to a pool. You are not the kind of coach who has people in like floaty belts and like just, you know, kind of doing this. And together, you and I learned that my shoulder was not at a point where that was going to be successful. And I felt like such a failure.
Mm.
Not because the car accident was my fault. In no way was it my fault, but I just couldn't do what I used to do. And one of the things, Amy, that Andrea does that I love so much is that she has different lanes for different speeds, right? Because there's nothing more stressful than being a slow swimmer and having someone like, you know, at your heels, you know, trying
Mhm.
to beat you. And I didn't realize until that moment, Andrea, the grace that you showed to people who are struggling. And it was very important to me, and I never told you that.
Well, thank you, but I don't think it's grace. I think that's just that's how we coach, right? And I feel like every swimmer that comes into my program, we have this discussion. I've had it with quite a few, and especially I would say this applies more to my adults than my teenagers, but every single adult that comes into my program is broken in some way. Some of them, the cracks are really visible, and you know right off the bat, like, okay, this one, I can see the cracks, we're good. And some, you don't see it until pressure is applied, and then you're like, okay, now I know. And I've gotten the opportunity to work with so many of these beautiful broken people. We're all broken. I'm broken.
Oh,
That you learn how to relate. I think that's probably what's more. It's not grace, it's relation. I see you. I know where you are. I can reach you where you're broken and make a bridge so that we can manage. But it's yeah, I'm not sure it's grace. I think it's
I'm
and
I'm ne-
because we
I'm
want you to
never
do what you're doing. I
I'm
love
never going to
you.
forget that. Beautiful broken people.
Beautiful
Beautiful
broken
broken
people.
people. And yeah, and I was broken because I just assumed I was going to come back at a level that I had experienced in the past. And beautiful broken people. I was broken in more ways than one.
And it's okay to be broken. And
Yeah.
I really I think that's
Yeah.
everyone is carrying around something, right? Visible or non-visible, they've got something. So,
Amy, this is what I love about this podcast is that I feel I've just learned something really important. And I realize that other people watch this and that it's supposed to be for other people, but I feel like I just came away from this with something from Andrea about the fact that sometimes it's a gift to be a little bit broken.
yeah.
I feel like we're also allowed to benefit from the knowledge that we we learned as well. And we don't have to just have everything for everybody. Of course, our listeners can definitely intake what we're learning as well, but aha moments happen in the moment, right? And you just
Right.
it's just really interesting. This whole conversation's been very interesting.
The one thing that I do want to make sure that we cover is because we'll be putting this up on all the social media and stuff, but Andrea, just tell us how people find you because it's B-train, but just give us the kind of all the deets about how they can find you. Because what I can tell you is even if you're not a very good swimmer, when I went, this is a true story. I did my first triathlon and had not been swimming in 25 years. And I thought I should probably go to a class. And a guy named Eric that Andrea knows introduced us, and I started to do it. So, how do people find you? And you don't have to be in the fast. I never made it to the fast lane ever. I was like one, two, or three. Like that was it. But tell people how to find you.
Sure. So, they can find me at B like Bob, train like choo choo swimming.com. So btrainswimming.com. And we're at Brewer Pool. We have 5 practices a week. You can just show up at Brewer. The staff will give you one of my business cards for sure. And And I'm not hard to find. I think I live at Brewer between Swim Ottawa and B Train. I have joked that there should be a cot or something for me.
But what I like about it too is that I always forget how old I am. I'm going to be 57 soon. Yes, I'm going to be 57 soon. What I really like is you also have different groups where people can participate and maybe feel a little less intimidated because they're with their own age group and not a 17-year-old who's going to the Olympics.
Well, right. So, I mean, again, I don't work with B Train doesn't work with the age group swimmers. Those stay with Swim Ottawa or one of the other clubs in the city.
Hmm.
But my lunchtime swims, my noon to ones, are tend to be a little more laid back.
Yep.
Um, Although I'm noticing a huge shift, obviously, with this demographic of people working from home with more flexible work schedules, that we're not really, 55 or and over in that swim anymore, which is lovely too. And I have a lot of shift workers. Huge shout out to all my CHEO doctors that come and spend time with me. And they love it because it works around their work hours. And so it's pretty cool.
Andrea, what would you tell that person who might be listening or hopefully is listening that they want to do something? They're enticed by our conversation. They want to look into swimming, but they, to our points that we've talked about, they're not going to be good at it. And do you have any advice that we can spread for these people about just taking a shot? Because I feel like a lot of us want to try a lot of things and are just worried about failure, worried about like maybe they're doing it for fitness purposes and worried that they're just not going to get to that fitness, like all the stuff that just gets in our way in our mind. Do you have anything to say to those folks?
Well, I think it's very important that everybody understand that at 11 years old when I joined the swim club, I was the worst one there.
Oh.
Um, and in fact, and I knew when I was 11 that I wanted to go to the Olympics, and I would tell people that all the time. It was, oh, one day I'm going to go to the Olympics, and one day and people would laugh, and rightly so, I suppose. And it only fueled what drove me, I think. I was like, okay, you were gonna laugh, well, I'm gonna show you. But I certainly was not a superstar at 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 or 16. And I really only started to come into the sport at 17, 18. So it's not really where you start, is it? And I think we can get really caught up in that thinking we need to start at a high level. And I'll tell you, man, this aging process has been humbling even for me. And to go from a high performance athlete to a regular athletic person, I suppose, to a mom, to a perimenopausal woman, it's not been the smoothest transition, right? And every year I get on my bike, I think I'm slower. Every year I put on my cross country skis, I'm slower. I'm not faster. And you would think that that would be the way it would go the longer you do something, and it isn't that way. But the days where I move my body, I feel so much more positive about my body and what the things it can do. So I would say it's pretty critical. Um, but again, start with something that you want to do. Look for who's going to do it with you. Find a buddy. Um, Andrea, that you're going to have on next week. We've gone cross country skiing together. We've gone biking together, and she always giggles when I fall, and it's great fun. I don't fall on my bike, not yet. That's why I won't clip in, just FYI. But it's about, like I said earlier, taking what you do seriously, but not taking yourself seriously. So if you can
Mm.
enjoy the process and laugh when you make a mistake and realize that it is a it is a process. I am in that frustrating struggle myself. I've been out of the water for about a year and a half with a ruptured eardrum. It's finally healed. I can finally go swimming again without an earplug and without worrying that it's going to get wet. And I am in horrible swimming shape. Like, it is so humbling to me how incredibly slowly I am swimming for me that, it's a rebuild. And that's
Yeah.
okay. It's not, Amy, I hear you on the perfectionism thing. but perfect is the enemy of good. Perfect is the enemy of done. Like something's always better than nothing. And so that's even when my adults come out and they've got a meeting and they only make it for half an hour of the hour swim, I'm like, hey, something's always better than nothing. It's not all or nothing. Not at this level.
I think
And
we just need to change how everybody sees that, right? And I agree, it's not all or nothing. It's as if you're doing something, you're still moving forward in even a small way.
Yeah.
and I will tell you, I met with, and I won't use last names just for privacy, but Tim and Tiff in Florida, who I met through triathlon. And when I'm listening to you, I think about the first time I showed up on your deck, the very first time. All I could think about was how ugly I looked in a bathing suit. Literally, like, I'd been swimming half my life at that point, but I had taken like, a long time off, and I was a competitive kid in swimming and stuff. And this is what women do to ourselves, is that all I could think about is that I'm wearing a Speedo, which is not super attractive on the best of days. I'm wearing a Speedo and I'm standing here with all these other people, and I don't want to be seen, and I'm in the slow lane and I want to be invisible. And I, was training for a triathlon at that point, was 7 days forward, and I was not ready for it. And yet we beat ourselves up so much as women about the fact that we think that we suck at something. And it's like, my God, like, congratulations to all of you who have tried something
Yeah.
knowing that you were not going to be amazing and go to the Olympics for butterfly, because that's my favorite stroke ever.
Well, it is the best one, Timothy.
It is
Um,
painful. It is painful.
no.
But
We can
like,
debate
what
that
if what
another
if we all cheered ourselves on for just
Showing up.
showing,
just
like,
showing up.
yeah, we're allowed to swear on our podcast because it's ours, but like, you just fucking showed up. Like, good for
Yeah.
you.
And that is, that is half the battle. And the women that I am seeing that come into my program that are moms with these incredible careers that are
Yeah.
just like, I'm look at me and they're like, I'm barely holding it together. I'm like, you're doing better than you think you are. And you're here. And
Yeah.
you took some time for yourself. Let's enjoy it. You're gonna have a great day now. You've been in the water. That's the best way to start the day, in my opinion. And wow, we're hard on ourselves as a gender. So the men, I'm sure, are hard on themselves as well. Maybe they just don't vocalize it as much. But
Right.
yeah, women are out there killing it, and we never think it's enough, and it is enough.
It's enough. You are enough.
Mm.
And with
You're
that,
enough, even if you are not out there doing all
yeah,
these things. And I think that that's what also needs to be really clear too, right? And that's the conversation that I have with a bunch of moms. Like it isn't about how great you're managing and how clean your house is and how wonderful your meals are. Are your kids happy? Are they great humans? Because really, what's the goal?
yeah.
And for those of us that aren't moms or aren't moms, like be man, women are there. We could have so many discussions on that.
And I know Amy's going to wrap this up, but who is the best coach that you ever had?
Oh, that is a tough question, but I'm going to go
Oh,
with Mike Blondell. Blondie, we call him. Mike was my coach from just 1997 to 2000. He was a savior to me in the sport. I'd come off an incredibly dark season and a very tough coaching situation. And Mike helped me realize just how much I still loved the sport and was so gentle with me. He is one of the best humans I've ever met in my life.
Well, Amy has a mic, but I wanted to ask you that because I think sometimes we forget to thank the people that changed our whole life, right?
Mike knows.
Yeah, good, good.
I
And I
think
think
he would rather I stop telling him.
well, thanks, Andrea, for coming on. It's been
Thank you guys so much for
really
having me.
great. It's been really great, and the time flew. So I just really appreciate you sharing. And I'd like to remind our listeners, if they want more of us, to subscribe and get notified for our episodes. We're really grateful to have everybody here. And Andrea, until next time, wishing you well, and
Thank you so much,
bye to
ladies.
everyone from the Inner Shift.